60 Minutes Rewind.
Turn on your radio and the talk show host is telling you that race is not a serious problem in the United States, that the civil rights movement is the wave of the past, that affirmative action should be outlawed and welfare eradicated. Who other than perhaps Rush Limbaugh and some like-minded middle-aged white men would dare air such views, dare say that black leaders should stop whining? Well, look who's talking.
It's a bunch of nonsense that, quote, race plays a part of everything in America, end of quote, and I resent it.
Larry Elder holds the afternoon drive time slot on KABC Radio Los Angeles, a town where gridlock truly means captive audience.
What kind of message is that? It's hopelessness.
Elder maintains the black community is being fed a diet of racism by black leaders who encourage a so-called victim mentality.
Being a victim gives you a feeling of comfort, of security. After all, I didn't screw up, they stopped me. After all, it wasn't my fault I didn't get the promotion, they stopped me. I don't have the job I want, the car I want, the wife I want, the spouse I want, the date I want, because they screwed me.
The playing field is more level now than it's ever been, and the biggest factor in determining whether or not you're going to be successful is your willingness to work hard. That is my message, that is my credo, and for that reason I'm called a racist Uncle Tom. It's a joke.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, once again, the court is back in session.
Elder, a 44-year-old lawyer, holds court from the studio and makes conservative judgments about everything. Take the caller who wants to soak the rich.
The rich don't pay their fair share of taxes? Stick it to them. How dare you get up early, work hard, stay late, start a business, and earn more money than the rest of us? Larry Elder, Talk Radio.
In talk radio, a slap on the face is a badge of honor.
Blacks exaggerate the significance of racism. Affirmative action is wrong. Medicare should be abolished. Want more fatherless kids? Fine. Keep welfare.
Black leaders keep saying it, and many, many white leaders keep saying the same thing, that the major, number one problem in this country is race. And you're saying they're wrong.
Oh, it's nonsense. The number one problem in this country is crime. Come on, the black middle class is thriving. There are more black elected politicians than ever before. There are about 1 million black managers and administrators. The income gap between the average black man and the average white man continues to narrow. How could race be the most intractable problem in America? It's nonsense.
But not too many black callers. Randall, you're on the air.
I mean, you can see it, the joblessness, the unemployment, the beatings of the police. You know, I live in South Central LA.
Randall, I believe that your mentality is as large a problem as the racism that you're so concerned about. What you are telling people is the cops hate you. The criminal justice system hates you. Everything is somebody else's fault.
I think he believes in what he's saying, but I don't think he has evaluated the impact of what he does.
Connie Rice, one of the leaders in the fight to keep affirmative action in California, feels he is doing great harm. He would say that one effect of the traditional African-American leadership in this country is in fact to hold people back and to create what he calls a victim mentality.
Victims don't stand up, call their abuse for what it is, march into court to get it changed, demand a change in this country's culture, and then help that country achieve that change. That's not what victims do. In my mind, victims suffer their abuse in silence.
Come on. You're against affirmative action, right?
I am.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, there it is right there. Come on.
Affirmative action is premised on 3 things, all of which I reject. The first is the white man can't be trusted to do what is in his best interest. It is in the white man's best interest to hire the most talented, the most qualified. The second is you owe us. Who can't make that argument? When does it stop? Where does it stop? The third premise, hardly ever stated out loud, is that we can't make it on our own. We're not good enough. We can't compete without a boost. And I most assuredly reject that.
What would you say, though, if someone says, look, you're against affirmative action. You're a product of affirmative action. Mm-hmm. And people could accuse you of saying, I got mine, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm. And that's an allegation that has been made. And I've been quite candid that I've been a beneficiary of affirmative action. And I respond to it this way. Are you saying, but for affirmative action, Larry Elder would be jobless, homeless, and broke? No. I was going somewhere.
And this is Larry Elder, absolutely quite positively no S, a.k.a. the Sage from South Central.
He calls himself the Sage from South Central. He grew up in that part of L.A. filled with contradictions. A tidy, house-proud community, and yet, in parts, brimming with anger and violence, both of which he rejected. He graduated near the top of his class at Crenshaw High School, then went on to Brown University, and then the University of Michigan Law School. He then started a successful executive search business in Cleveland, gave it all up, got divorced, and moved back to L.A. and barged his way into talk radio.
I did it because I felt I needed to make a difference. I'm looking at the country. I'm looking at black-on-black crime. I'm looking at a country where 50% of the prison population is black, where 70% of black children are born to unwed mothers. Something is very wrong here, and racism cannot account for all these problems.
Jesse Jackson 1 was a valiant, gallant warrior for civil rights. Jesse Jackson 2 doesn't have a clue.
He is a man with a mission to debunk, he says, the constant stream of civil rights invective. He writes op-ed pieces, does the talk show circuit, publishes a monthly newsletter called The Elder Statement, and pushes his message of self-reliance to the young, using Michael Jordan as an example.
Did you know Michael Jordan was cut from his high school varsity? Michael friggin' Jordan cut from his high school team. Think about that. Think about how a lot of us would have responded to that. You quit, right?
What about Larry Elder as a role model?
The expression role model has always been sort of troublesome to me, because who's the role model in the white community? Who's the role model in the Jewish community? Who's the role model in the Greek American community? Why is it that black Americans have role models and leaders? There's something condescending about it. Having said that, of course I'm in a position of influence, and I take that position very seriously.
Elder did not come to his politics by accident. His father, Randolph, was dirt poor with little education. He went to night school, held down 2 jobs, and raised a family. Republican to the core. His mother, Viola, is a Democrat. It meant for a very lively dinner table. When Larry says, look, if you just forget the issue of racism, just put your head down, study hard, work hard, you're going to be all right in the end. You think that's true?
Worked for me. It worked for me.
Larry says he got his head from his father and his heart from his mother. He says one reason he came back to L.A. was to be close to his parents. Viola says she often disagrees with him. One reason why he gave her a weekly guest spot on his show.
Coming up, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
He calls you the Chief Justice of the
Supreme Court, that's what he calls me. I don't know where he got that from.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
You know, I know you voted for Bill Clinton, but let me ask you something. Suppose Bill Clinton were a Republican. Are you telling me he'd still be standing tall? It's funny. Is this thing on? Is this thing on, Mom?
I'm not sure.
Mother, is this thing on?
I'm not sure, because you see, there's not a smoking gun here yet. He didn't tape anything.
Well, that's a good point. I think that's one thing, Bill, that Richard Nixon did for everybody.
That's right.
Thou shalt not tape.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What do you think when someone calls him an Uncle Tom, as a lot of people, it really bothers you, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Those things I cannot handle. I just can't handle it. Not too well, anyway. Sometimes I throw a book or something.
Elder's been targeted by a black citizens group which calls for a boycott of his sponsors. A few pulled out, but the station, owned by Disney, stuck with him. The Talking Drum Community Forum calls you the most racist talk show host in Southern California.
Well, let them tell it to my face. I believe that blacks are as smart as talented as hardworking as anybody else in this country. Blacks have come further ahead from further behind than any group in this country. I just happen to believe that the welfare state has hurt blacks, and I happen to believe that O.J. Simpson butchered 2 innocent human beings. So therefore, I'm the most racist person in America. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What in God's name does it have to do with whether or not O.J. Simpson butchered 2 people?
Because
Nothing.
racist police officers should not be involved in a criminal case, period.
Leo Terrell can't stomach a lot of what Larry Elder says, but insists on his right to say it. He's a civil rights lawyer and a fellow KABC talk radio host. The response often from the black community when they hear something they don't agree with coming out of his mouth is to call him a racist. Is he a racist?
No. People call him Uncle Tom, a sellout. That's wrong. He is so critical to our community because he helps destroy the myth that we all think alike and we all share the same common ideals of what is right for African Americans.
Blacks have to get to a level of maturity where we can accept dissent. Ronald Reagan was an Irishman. Tip O'Neill was an Irishman. They were diametrically opposed ideologically, but they respected each other. No one accused the other one of not being an Irish person and trying to undermine the prospects of Irish people. We have to get to that point.
He says black liberals routinely vilify black conservatives because they're black. The liberal black magazine Emerge portrayed Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas as a lawn jockey and a shoeshine boy.
Because of this groupthink mentality, because of the feeling that you're a traitor if you have a different point of view, I create another level of anger.
But when your own people say, you've betrayed us, that must have an effect on you. I would think a profound effect.
It's not pleasant. It's not fun. But little by little, I know that I'm making a difference.
The story will continue after this.
There are certain viewpoints that I know if I articulate that is inconsistent with this so-called African-American leadership, then I've sold out. And that's a crime. That's a crime because no one has the right in our community to judge one's blackness.
Leo Terrell says that the blacks who attack Elder because he's black are hypocrites.
I would be inconsistent and a hypocrite as a civil rights attorney to be upset with someone simply because of their skin color. It's outrageous.
So that's really the issue.
That's it.
Anybody else could be saying this except a black man.
Exactly. We all live in the same country, but the reason, the focus on Larry Elder, the reason why you're doing this show, the reason why everyone is criticizing in our community, the black community, is because the man's skin is black, not the issues. That doesn't make sense.
It's not that he has views that are contrary to the black establishment. That's not what he gets attacked for. He gets attacked because he holds those stereotypes up for validation, and he holds the black community up for derision and contempt.
You're white. If a white person said of you, because of his perception of your affection for blacks, you're a lover, you would quite properly call this person a racist. If a black person says to another black person, because of that person's perceived affection for whites, you are an Uncle Tom, I don't see the difference.
Racism is racism.
Racism is racism.